Have you ever felt like heartbreak has become an unwelcome guest in your life? Like, no matter how much work you've done, the pain still lingers, stubbornly refusing to leave? Heartbreak has this uncanny way of not just hurting in the moment, but planting itself deep, affecting everything else: your relationships, your self worth, even how you see your future. But what if I told you, Freed, there are hidden obstacles keeping you stuck in that pain? Obstacles you've likely never even considered, and they're more subtle than just missing your ex or navigating the logistics of a breakup. These are the deeper blocks that keep you looping in emotional pain, sometimes for far too long. In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain. I'll reveal 3 secret obstacles that keep heartbreak hanging on, why the usual advice often falls short, and how you can start breaking free today. If you've ever felt stuck in the pain of heartbreak, no matter what caused it, you're not alone. And what you'll learn here could be the missing piece that changes everything. So, have you ever felt like you've tried everything to heal your heartbreak, but somehow the pain just lingers? Maybe you've done all the journaling, read all the self help books, talked it out with friends, or maybe even tried therapy, but you still feel stuck, where it can feel like the heartbreak has taken up residence in your heart and refuses to leave, and where its residence in your heart affects every other aspect of your life. But what if I told you that there are hidden obstacles that are actually keeping you from fully healing your heart? Obstacles that most people never even think to address. And these aren't like the surface level challenges like missing your ex or dealing with the logistics of a breakup. These are the deeper, sneakier blocks that keep you looping through the same emotional pain over and over again, that keep you from healing or at least significantly delay the process. In a previous episode, we talked about how you're not broken, how it's just you going through your own healing process, and it's okay whatever that looks like for you, and how your heartbreak could actually be meant to break your entire life wide open into a version of life that's more incredible than you've ever seen before. And that here's what nobody actually tells you about heartbreak: that we're all designed to process it differently. And more importantly, we're all designed to use it as a unique catalyst for our own transformation. But here's what I've learned from both my personal journey and from my clients: even when we're doing everything right in our own healing process, even when we're following our unique way of healing, there often still might be hidden obstacles that can keep us stuck in the pain for way too long. So, in this episode, I'm going to reveal what those secret obstacles actually are, explain why sometimes traditional healing methods often fall short of addressing them, and then talk about some actionable steps that you can take so that you can start conquering them. And if you still feel like you're having a hard time healing from a broken heart, no matter what the source, these secret obstacles are incredibly common, so it's likely that you're dealing with at least one of them. So let's get into it. The first obstacle is what I like to call the resistance loop. When we experience emotional pain, our natural instinct is to fight it, suppress it, or to try to fix it as quickly as possible. But here's the catch: the more you resist your emotions, the more you try to numb your feelings with substances and distractions, the more power they gain over you and the more they stay stuck inside of you. So the more you resist feeling them, the more you actually suffer. Because psychologically, this resistance creates a feedback loop. The energy that we use to suppress our pain only intensifies it. And from a human design perspective, we are called to channel this energy differently, not in fighting against our emotions, but in using that drive to heal and grow. Emotions are meant to flow through us, not to be held in or shoved away. And when we block that natural flow, we trap ourselves in suffering. So, how do you conquer this hidden obstacle? Instead of avoiding your emotions, try to meet them with curiosity. So, when you feel emotions like sadness or anger, take a moment and ask yourself, what is this emotion teaching me about myself? Instead of fighting against your emotions, allow them to exist without judgment. For example, the next time you feel a wave of sadness or anger, stop and take a deep breath and then just say to yourself, I'm allowed to feel this. Then just sit with it for about 90 seconds. Why 90 seconds? Because research shows that most emotions pass within 90 seconds when we acknowledge them, when we allow ourselves to feel them, and when we allow them to move through us. Try this out and see if this resonates with you. Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, a Harvard trained neuroscientist, proposed that the physiological lifespan of an emotion in the body is approximately 90 seconds. After this period, the emotion typically subsides unless the person reactivates it by resisting it, ruminating on it, or adding their own narrative to it. So, allowing your emotions to flow without resistance leads to them being resolved much faster. And then, an important point is don't reactivate the emotion by resisting it when it shows up again, ruminating on it, or adding a story to it about what it could mean. And by breaking the resistance loop, you're giving yourself the space to heal naturally instead of prolonging the pain. The second hidden obstacle to healing a broken heart is something that very few people talk about, which is the identity crisis that heartbreak can often create. When a loss occurs or a relationship ends, it doesn't just leave a void in your life, it can also challenge your sense of who you are if you've built part of your identity around the other person who's no longer there. Who are you without this relationship? What does the absence of this person mean about your worth, your future, and your story? And these can often feel like big, scary questions. And the advice to just move on completely ignores this deeper struggle. When a relationship ends or a loss occurs, it often leaves more than just a void in your daily life. It can shake the foundation of who you believe that you are. Heartbreak isn't just about missing someone, it's about navigating the disorienting question, who am I now without them? And this identity crisis can often feel overwhelming because relationships often anchor us into a sense of self, providing the roles that we play, the routines that we follow, and a shared vision of the future with somebody else. When that is taken away, it's natural to question everything and to ask things like, am I lovable? Am I worthy? What does my future look like now? Was my identity too tied to this person or relationship? And these often don't feel like just passing thoughts. They can feel like profound soul level questions. And yet, the typical advice to just move on or put yourself out there can often skip over this deeper layer of healing that must happen. So, when we speak of heartbreak, we often focus on the obvious pain of loss, the empty side of the bed, the unshared meals, the silence where laughter used to be. But beneath these visible wounds lies a more fundamental disruption, the altering of our self concept. When we have significant relationships become interwoven with our identities in ways that we often don't fully recognize until the relationships end. It can feel like being an actor who's not only lost their co-star, but also has lost their entire script and their entire stage. The key insight here is that this identity crisis, while painful, can also be transformative because it can be an opportunity for you to distinguish between who you became in the relationship and who you fundamentally are, where you can begin looking at things such as how to excavate pre relationship passions, values, and dreams that you may have compromised or forgotten. What lit you up before the relationship? What parts of yourself did you put aside to make room for the relationship? It can also usher in a new period where you get to try on new ways of being, where you get to take risks with your own self expression, where you get to explore interests that you might have dismissed, and where your life can become more like a laboratory for self discovery. It can also be a time where you scrutinize your own internalized belief about what makes a life meaningful and what makes a life worth living. So perhaps your identity was tied to being the quote unquote perfect partner. What other measures of worth could you now explore? What are you guided by when you're making choices purely for yourself? And what matters most when you're not actually compromising for a relationship or for another person in a relationship? And the ultimate goal isn't for you to become someone new, but to uncover, rediscover, and strengthen who you've always been all along. And this process may require some patience. So you might not just be healing a broken heart, you might also be reconstructing your sense of who you are, where the question might shift from who am I without them to who am I at my core and how can I honor that person more fully. And here's where your human design chart can offer some profound insights and can offer a lot of help because your human design chart reflects your authentic self, the person that you were designed to be before conditioning or relationships shaped your identity. And times of heartbreak are opportunities for you to reconnect with that authentic self. So instead of trying to rebuild your identity around someone else, you can start exploring who you truly are at your core. And healing from a broken heart isn't just about letting go of the past, it's about rediscovering yourself and finding the parts of your true self that might have gotten lost somewhere along the way. The third main obstacle that keeps people stuck in heartbreak is what I like to call the pattern blind spot. So many of us get stuck in heartbreak because we're caught in unconscious patterns that we can't help but keep repeating. So maybe you're drawn to emotionally unavailable partners. Maybe you keep overgiving in relationships. These patterns can feel like fate, but they're actually habits until you become consciously aware of them and then decide to consciously create what you want in your relationships. Your human design chart can help you see many of these patterns more clearly. Your chart reveals not only your strengths, but also your vulnerabilities, the places where you're most likely to fall into unhealthy relationship dynamics. If you're wondering what patterns might be keeping you stuck, because this can be often very difficult to figure out because it often feels like it's just the way you've always done things and the way that you've always operated. And most likely, it's the patterns that you've seen play out in the relationships of the people around you. So, if you're wondering what patterns might actually be keeping you stuck, you can start by reflecting on your past relationships. What's the common thread? And then you can use your human design chart to see how that thread aligns with your natural tendencies. If you want some more help recovering the relationship patterns that are no longer serving you, and you want to go much deeper into this, check out our free and paid resources at hdpsychologist.com. So, how do you conquer these three obstacles that are in the way of healing heartache for good? This is where my unique approach comes in. Psychology gives us tools to understand and process emotions, while human design gives us insights into aligning with our true selves and breaking free from patterns that no longer serve us. And now that you're aware of these three main obstacles, let's talk about some small but powerful actions that you can take. First off, identify your resistance loop. Take a moment today to notice when you're fighting your emotions, and then pause, breathe, and practice allowing them to flow through you. Number two, explore your identity. Look at your human design chart and ask, what parts of my true self have I been neglecting? Number three, spot the dysfunctional patterns in your past relationships. Healing heartbreak is a journey, and it's also one that you don't have to take alone. If today's episode resonated with you, my Heartbreak Healing Program is designed to take you even deeper. It's a step-by-step process that combines psychology and human design to help you break free from pain, rediscover your true self, and open your heart to love again. So if you're curious to learn more about it, visit hdpsychologist.com/heartbreak. And there's literally no pressure, just an invitation for you to explore what could be the possible next step in your healing journey.